You're listening to Ignite Your Success, a podcast that inspires fitness professionals to build a strong business that enables them to serve more people and engineer the lifestyle they desire. It's Brad Shepherd here, and together with Jason Ubanowicz, we're best known for running Trainer HQ, a community of passionate and profit-hungry fitness business owners that make a massive difference in others' lives every day. Each episode will unpack for you exactly what's working and deliver best practice strategies so you can confidently grow your business and make a huge impact. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Trainer HQ podcast. Now, I've got some pretty special guests along today. Well, first one, Jace. I mean, fuck, you're always here, mate. So
I'll take it, though. I'll take it.
You are special, that's for sure.
Well, let's not go down that path. I know where that's leading.
You're wearing a special shirt.
I am.
The Base Training Centre. Yep. Would you like to introduce our guest today?
I would. And if you listen to this, you won't be able to see it, of course, but I am wearing the Base Training Centre. And the special guest we have today is not only a two-time Trainer HQ Entrepreneur of the Year winner.
Ooh, yeah.
He personally thinks he had three. And, you know, there was plenty of argument for that. I would have to agree. But, you know, I have to share the load. But Mr. Damien Brown, welcome, sir.
Thanks for having me, gents. I appreciate it.
Absolute
it's
pleasure.
Good to be back. Unofficial 3-time winner.
It just keeps going every year.
Look, part of me feels like, you know, it was good for the company.
Yeah.
Mate, you're the only two-time winner, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
In
back
the whole
to back.
Back to back,
Yeah.
and the only two-time winner in the history of the 18 years of Trainer HQ. So that's pretty fucking cool.
I was there thinking, like, can you just ease up a bit? I want to give this award to somebody else. I mean, come on.
No, look, I think
He goes, I've already ordered my trophy again this year. You guys don't need to do it. I've already got it in the office.
the first 2 years was a bit unexpected, but the third one I had a suit. So it's you know, I think the reality is you guys probably work with a lot of people that are in a similar market, you know, in a flooded market, and I feel like I really had a bit of a niche, and I would say the thought process and plan behind what I wanted to execute was a little different in the way that most people would build a martial arts gym, and I think that the growth was reflective of that. So it's not really a surprise that we had the growth we did, but as we'll get into, I'm sure, you know, that has, you know, steadied, which is to be expected. But every time we go somewhere new, the business model skyrockets.
Yeah,
So,
love it. It's a great analogy to put to it. That's what we've witnessed.
Yep.
So let's go back and let's start to unpack the start of when Base first launched.
So March 25th, 2019 was our opening day. I remember vividly because March 23rd, 2020 was the COVID lockdown.
Oh yeah.
So
what a
that
time
was
to be alive.
2 days before the gym's birthday, which was fantastic. But, you know, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. And I think any gym in general that came out the other side, that was a nice slurp right in the middle of my...
Sorry about that. Well, he didn't give me a glass.
I think any gym...
It's on me, though.
Any gym that comes out the other side of COVID comes out stronger.
Yep.
And that's not because they survived it. I think it's because a lot of people got, you know, locked in a house and realised that exercise was pretty important. Maybe they put a bit of weight on in that time, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And then they were like, I've got to get out. And I think everyone went and joined gyms. So if your marketing was on point about 4 days before the unlock, when we kind of knew it was coming, then you sort of hit their Facebook algorithms.
100%. And can you remember back to when that COVID lockdown happened? So we're talking now just coming up to 5 years ago. So you're 1 year into the journey. Can you remember roughly how many gym members you had at about that time?
Yeah, I had 123 gym members during when we got locked down.
Yeah.
And when we unlocked 10 weeks later, I had 120.
Yep. Yeah, it's great.
I do plan little things. I didn't plan for COVID, but obviously when it happened, my first thoughts, how do I survive? So I went home and drank lots of whiskey. I got really drunk the first 2 days and felt like, so I didn't get loans or anything. I invested all my savings into my business. Because my past, I'm a bit, I was always hesitant to go into business because of, my father's experiences and stuff. And I've seen the worst and the best. He's still going to this day, probably 23 years in business, but I've seen the worst before it got good. And so I was probably pretty hesitant. And so my thought process behind starting business was, at least if I invest all my savings, I can go back to work. If I go bankrupt, of course I can go back to work, but I've got to deal with that shit for a long period of time. So I invested everything. So when COVID came around, it was like, I'm going to lose everything. And I remember working a night shift. I still worked for the first year at the jail. And I remember working a night shift and it was like 8 p.m. or something. It was on the news. It was like, we're going to lock down from 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So I ran a morning class, which someone else was coaching. And I went in and I remember I just standing in front of my members and I was emotional, I was upset. I was visibly upset, and had a bit of a cry and said, guys, I don't know where it's going, I know as much as you, and all I know is that we'll be there on the other end. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how it happens. And then I just went and wasted myself for 2 days at home. Fortunately, and I still think that every person that's in business needs a good accountant, a good lawyer, and a good broker. And I think if you have those three people, I think you can lean on, you can sort of get through anything. And I had that, and the only real problem I had, because I only had bills that could be turned off, so, turn the power off, I didn't have any debt, loans and stuff like that, I just turned everything off. The only problem I had to deal with during COVID was a lease and a very difficult landlord. And I understand now they were going through the same thing we were going through, but they got loans and a lot of banks were freezing shit at the time. So I basically, for about the first, I think it took about 8 days before the federal government brought in like a COVID legislation thing that basically said you had to negotiate with your tenant and come up with a reasonable outcome. The reasonable outcome at the time was 50% reduction, 50% deferral to be paid after lockdowns were lifted up.
So still to be paid, but it was just the breathing space.
Yeah, and it was to help everyone get through it. And then there was legislated, so there was some criteria or whatever. We met that, and I still remember I went to the landlord's, property manager, and he said, it's not state law, so we're still sending you a lease. I said, I'll see you in court. And then, which is what my lawyer told me to say. And then I just waited until COVID was over. We reopened, started paying rent as normal, but never back paid. And then 2 weeks before the end of the financial year, he basically rang me and said, can you guys pay 50% of that rent? I'm like, well, that actually is what I asked for.
Yeah, in the first place.
And, if you guys had done that, we'd still have a good relationship. But right now, you just can get, and I'm going to look for a new place when my lease is up. And that's sort of like, I'm definitely, I'm pretty reasonable to work with in general, even with money involved, because I don't like money. So, it doesn't really worry me as long as it's fair for everyone. And so, my thought was I tried to be reasonable. I didn't try and get free rent. I could have paid my rent during COVID, but I tried to do what everyone else did and manage cash flow to get out the other side. And the reasonable outcome was for you to try and stall me out and staunch me like you did all my neighbours that paid full rent because they probably weren't surrounded by, a good lawyer.
Having good people around them and good advice.
And in the end, you just gave me what I asked for, but you just tried to be a bully in between. Anyway, so we got outside of it and, the rest was history and we just took off.
And back to your ongoing expenses, I imagine at 120 members, that would have been enough to keep the doors open, pay for the business, but it probably wasn't thriving because you had some significant overheads, right?
So what actually happened was I hit 95 members and I think I made $1,000 profit that month.
Yeah, gotcha. So it was around about the sweet spot.
Yeah, I only remember that because once I made the $1,000 profit, I thought to myself, can finally afford advertising. So it took me about 10 months to get there. And then when I made my first month's like profit, because we didn't advertise, we didn't do Google ads. I still haven't done Google ads. We didn't do Google ads. We didn't do Facebook ads. I just, didn't do letter drops. I just word of mouth and off the back of my UFC career. We grew to 95. Then I reached out to a marketing company.
You were very active on socials. That's
so
organically.
Look, there's a lot of things I did that other people weren't doing.
Yeah,
I feel like, maybe not. But I feel like there was some online sort of targeting from other gyms that would be mocking people at the time, particularly MMA. I'm not talking about fitness industry, but particularly MMA. Whereas, like, if you're advertising online, you're a McDojo. You're trying to sell yourself. It's like you got to be this. You got to be this. You got to teach it like this. You got to run it like this. Like, fuck that. That's why you've all got 10 members, right? So we were very active on socials. We put posts up. We put videos up. We did things that other people weren't doing. And again, that was part of my vision. It was just about doing the things that people were uncomfortable doing, and I was already doing it for my fight career. Why would I not do it for my business? I am a business, so why would I not do it for my... And so there was all that sort of stuff. We were active. It wasn't just a word of mouth thing, but it was no paid marketing. And then when we hit the 95 members, I reinvested that $1,000 into about a month and a half of advertising in the area. And from memory, I had never seen a gym Facebook ad. So I believe that we might have just like hit like an untapped market, because I got 600 leads in 6 weeks.
It was nuts.
And I signed up 35 members. And when I say that, I mean, I just literally couldn't ring everyone. Like, I had, she still works for me now, so I had Georgia. I was like, hey, and she wasn't, I don't know if she was working at the time or maybe at like Fight Life or something like that. And I was like, hey, do you want to like maybe coach a couple of morning classes? She's like, yep. So she'd done that for a couple of months. And then I went, hey, do you want to make some phone calls? And that's just kind of how my business, really, I learned a lot of things along the way that I could have avoided, but we're in a really good spot right now on all fronts. But that's just kind of how I just, went on the averages, takes 8 times for someone to answer the phone. 11 times they're a cold lead or a dead lead. So it's like 8 times 600, it's a lot of phone calls.
It's a lot of touch points.
That many hours in the day, I was still training full time. I was still fighting. I was working Saturday, Sunday night shifts at the jail, and I was coaching in my gym. I just didn't have the time to make the calls, but just couldn't believe what was coming in, and they were all good leads. We didn't really have the software to deal with it.
Yeah, that's the thing, yeah.
We couldn't send, we didn't have an automated software that was sending text. Like right now when our leads come through, within minutes, they get a text message, They book their own phone call. Then they get a call. If they haven't booked a phone call in 48 hours, we've got a full sales funnel now. The system's there. I didn't have any of that, but we had that 35 growth, and we went from 95 to, well, it might not have been exactly 35, but went from 95 up to 120 something, and then we dropped off a little bit, and then COVID. I just remember right when COVID happened, I had 123.
123,
I finished with 120 10 weeks later.
Yeah, and then so 10, and when we reopened, we're now midway through 2020, and so the journey from midway through 2020 up until the end of 2021, which is when you won your first Entrepreneur of the Year at Train HQ. At the end of 2021, from memory, you were around about 300 members. That sound about right?
No, end of 2021, we were around 200.
Yeah, 200.
200.
Yeah. And then we moved into the new building, and within the second award, so the next year, when we got the second one, we were at 300. So we had, again, like anyone that came out of the first lockdown, we hit the marketing we were already doing, and we signed 65 members in a month, which is fucking wild.
Yep.
And it was just people wanting to get out, and then we just kept growing from there, and found a new building, and we're still there.
Yeah, that's cool. So the almost tracking like linear growth. It's like first year, get to 100, then to 200, then to 300.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically every year, yeah.
Yep.
And, once you get past your first 100, you definitely need the marketing because you've sort of like exhausted your organic growth. I still look at it today and go, people will come in 6 years later and go, I didn't know you guys were here. Like, I've been here 6 years. They're like, I've lived here for 20. Like, how do I get to that person sooner?
Yeah.
Right? That's the real struggle. You can do Google ads, you can do Facebook ads, you can do bloody letterbox drops. You can letterbox drop every house and they still won't know you're there. You know what I mean? Like,
I think that's also a result of when you're not looking for it, you don't see it, right?
Yeah.
So when you are looking for something, then you start to notice it. Like you could live somewhere all your life and go, I'm not interested in dog grooming because I don't have a dog, so I've never seen it. I get a dog, all of a sudden, it's right in front of me.
A glass of water was good too.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So where's the gym at now in terms of the members?
So I don't know right this second because I haven't looked at the sheet. So I've delegated. So I do actually have analytics these days and stats.
Yeah, elaborate.
Which my old business guy should be delighted with. Because anyone that's around me knows that I hate computers and I don't like spreadsheets, and I do about 6 hours of business work a fortnight on my computer, and then I never touch it again. So,
Poor computer.
I do about 6 hours a day on my phone, but I leave my computer for the big jobs because I just don't like that sort of, I'm just more of a physical kind of person. But we're just under 400.
Yeah, okay.
In one gym.
Yeah.
And we haven't cracked the 400, I just know that. But I know we're at 398 before Christmas.
398.
Yeah. And there's another story about that location because, the original landlord, you moved properties, which then led to another opportunity for you to actually become the landlord. So unpack that for us.
I can't remember if we discussed this on the last one or not, but yeah, let's get into that.
We so essentially when I went into business, again, I feel like just my reasoning behind things, I feel like our parents are the minimum standard in our life. So I never looked at my parents and went, I want what they have. I look at my parents and go, I should have at least what they have.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that, without offending anyone, it should be anywhere in your life. You look at your black belt instructor and you should want to be better than them and they should want you to be better than them.
Yeah, I agree.
They're the black belt of the 90s, you're the black belt of the 2000s, and then there's the 2010s. And if you're a black belt in 2020, in the 20s and 2025, man, you should be fucking way better than me. You know what I mean? And that's my thought process on it. And if your coach owns a gym, then your gym should be better than your coach's gym because you should do things better. And my parents have taught me a lot about what to do, what not to do, and how to fail and how to succeed. And I basically set out in business to own my shed in the first 3 years because I listened to my dad talk about buying a shed for 18 years, and now he runs his business out of his house. So, but the good news is he probably paid someone's shed off in that 18 years before he decided to downgrade. But, I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want a business and just rent a building forever. So we got 2 years in, we hit 200 members. The building was a bit small. I asked them if I could buy it because I was happy to stay there. I had some good profit margins. I was happy to stay there. I asked them if I could buy it. The landlord at the time, well, probably still, she doesn't sell property. She only buys property. So she owned the whole complex. She had an offer when it was fully leased to buy the whole complex and knocked it back. So, I was adamant that was part of my journey. So I started looking for a property I could buy. It was a bit scarce, the availability, but we found we were in 300 squares. We found a 700 square meter building down the road, brand new tilt panel shed, registered showrooms. It was white. It was nice. It was opposite the BMX track. And it was the smallest one in the complex. And I looked at the front three buildings. So it was like 930, 704, and 783 or something like that. And what actually dictated which one I took was not the size of the shed, but the price of it. So I had already talked to a broker about it. I knew where I was at and what I could buy. So we went with the 700. Wish I went with the 900 now. just because I've added a mezzanine to my gym. So I probably got 880 now. Anyway, the 900 would have been a lot more usable over time. Would have been too big at the time, but over time we would have grown into it. But yeah, I bought the 704 square meter shed, but we had to lease with an option to buy. So we leased it. Again, when I say I'm easy to get along with, like I walked in, I said, I'll pay what you're asking. It's a good price, whatever. It's $2,100 a square meter. I'll pay what you're asking, but I want you to give me cheaper rent until I can buy it. So we did a 5-year lease. He knocked $15,000 a year off the lease. And then put an option to buy in there at a fixed price for 2 years. And then, we went up by CPI each year after that, and I had exclusive right to buy it. So he had to hold it for 2 years. And then I was still fitting it out, like a month in, I went to him and said, my financials are good, I can buy it now. And that was a long process because he hadn't finished the development. So he hadn't finished, had it all on a big single title. It wasn't on like a group title. So he had some things to do, like little things like crossings and all that sort of stuff. And anyway, I waited 15 months for it to settle. But yeah, it was a good investment. Like I said, I had a fixed price at the time. So if you think 15 months later, there's pretty hefty growth in that. And the market had gone up. So that was March 2021, which was only 1 year after COVID, still technically in the middle. And obviously Victoria was heavily locked down still. So we essentially moved from 300 to 700 square meters in the middle of COVID. And, it was a massive risk that paid off. And now not only am I a property owner, but I'm also a commercial property owner as well. So I got, my house, that, and then my businesses. And so it sort of all ties in. And, really I tend to look at it when I reflect and think to myself, well, it's like the Aussie dream. I'm not like, I don't own like 20, 30, 40, $50 million worth of property. But if I had the ideal world, it would be a business that rents a shed that we own that pays off our house. And then hopefully when I'm 50, 60 years old, if I can't coach anymore or whatever, I at least have a shed and a house.
Yeah, you got an asset there.
I've got a retirement plan. But I don't really sit on my hands and wait. So who knows what's next? I could own a fucking shopping centre. Which is might be the plan.
And it wouldn't surprise me to get an SMS from you saying that's exactly the case. I mean, you mentioned a massive risk, but then when you break it down, it was quite educated, calculated as well.
Look,
it's not like you just went, okay, bugger it, I'll go and buy this shed out of sheer hope. If you listen to everything we've been talking about.
Like I said, the sale price was based on the size of a shed. That's the way commercial property works. Yeah. I couldn't afford 1.9 million, so I had to go with a smaller shed. So even though it was a risk, everything I do is calculated. It's not. I don't do a lot of numbers as far as the stats go and go. I just go, does it feel right? Do the numbers work? Ask my broker. Ask my accountant. Hey, what do you reckon about this? Yeah, that makes sense. All right, cool. I trust them. My accountant's the man. He first ever sponsored me when I was in the UFC, and he sorted out all my taxes that someone else had destroyed and done back to front and whatnot. And I've referred a lot of people to him who own businesses, and I've never seen anyone that's got a business leave him. So the guy's very good at what he does. And, if I've got any kind of financial sort of query, I'll just message him and say, hey, what do you reckon about this? And he'll say, don't do that. Or he'll say, I think that's a good idea. And he's quite... what's the word, like I would say he's like, he makes good calculated decisions, not just because he's an accountant, but like even from an investment point of view, like if you've got a wild idea, he'll go, I don't think that's a good idea, man.
Well,
whereas if you've got an idea that he thinks is a good idea, he'll say, I think that's a good long-term investment. You have a good plan. Like he's calculated, but he's reasonable in his risk taking. So if he thinks there's a benefit to the risk, he'll take it. But if you come to him with like,
the risk far outweighs any kind of benefit.
I'm going to go put vending machines in Vietnam for international tourists. He'll go, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah,
like, don't do that.
Yeah.
So he's
And with experience and obviously seen every probably type of scenario. How old is he?
I don't know. He just moved to Queensland a couple of years ago to retire.
Yeah, so he's been in the game for a long time, right?
Maybe 50,
and
50.
seen a squillion different business proposals, ideas, and with experience, you can't buy that.
I'd say he's probably in his 50s.
Yeah,
he's definitely not 40. I'm 40 and I look good. So
amazing.
Yeah.
But that's some of the key points for people listening in and watching it is that surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yep.
You know, and I've said it often about yourself, mate, is that from the get-go, that was one of your big strengths and advantages is that you understood what you were good at and what you need help with. And
people need to delegate.
But too many people get in a business right and they try to do everything, and even though they're not good at it, and really it delays their progress or their success because...
I even think down to, let's say, heaps of people who use Canva, right? Everyone loves Canva. Yeah. Not me. I hate Canva, right? That's why I got a designer that works for me. But even if your missus is better at Canva, get her to do it. Do you know what I mean? Just don't do something you're not good at. Like, even if you're not paying a designer, you're a graphic designer, or you're not paying a videographer, even if someone in your house is better at it, get them to do it. Like, just don't be so stubborn and pride-driven that you're like, I can do everything. Because your business will just have a negative effect to that. So, yeah, definitely, one of the big things that I've always been about is delegating responsibilities for stuff that you are not good at or outsourcing. And, I think at some point your business will get big enough that you can internalize everything. You can bring it on board, which is what we've done.
Yeah, and then the other part is that you're just backing yourself to make this a reality, right? So you can have the right people, but you still got to, at some point, you still got to back yourself. Doesn't mean you're not have concerns or fears, but again, you got all that data, all that information, the right people guiding you, saying, "Yep, I agree. This is a worthwhile thing to pursue." But you still have to pull the trigger on it, right? So you're still responsible for doing it. No matter how many experts or people tell you, you're still the one who has to go, "Yep, I'm up for this journey. I'm up to take this on," and you have the person right next to you, same advice, same position, same opportunities, and yet they don't allow themselves to take that next step, and as a result, they don't move forward.
I was there at some point, you know what I mean? Like, I nearly bought a bakery. I'm a baker by trade. I'm 21 years old, could have bought a Baker's Delight in Lutwich, was going to sign a lease to buy option through Baker's Delight headquarters, shit the bed, join the army. So it's like literally 2 weeks before doing it, and I still had that, I see my dad go bankrupt, like, I've still got these experiences that are making me hesitant, Some people don't have those experiences. They're still just like, oh, I'm not sure if I'll risk it. It
shows you the power of the beliefs that we talk about at our seminars, what's your belief about business and where do you get it from and what you've seen. And, that's the classic example of that, right?
It helped that, I thought I was a great baker, but at 21 years old, I didn't know shit about business.
Yeah.
Whereas by the time I'd got into my 30s and I'd run, a career as an athlete and had to deal with myself and do my taxes and all that sort of stuff, and you have a bit more of an understanding about business, and then you have the confidence in your skill set, which I already had at 21 but didn't have the business side. You have the confidence and the business side. Then you're like, okay, I can do this. Yeah. And it also helps if you've got to weigh up your other option, which is like 35 years as a corrections officer, which sounds pretty shitty to me. So, that's not something that I wanted to do, was work till retirement age in a government job, and especially that government job. So I need to be stimulated. I need to be doing stuff. And at that point in my life, I felt like there was minimal effects if it went wrong. Mm-hmm. I could always just go casual and go back to my job full time if I need to. And so I reduced the risk of everything. And then took the step. I think that's just part of it, just making calculated risks.
Yeah, which is the reality in this country, at least, if you go for it, if you've had some other previous qualifications or job. And I say it to people all the time, the reality is that's probably the worst case scenario, is that you're back doing that. But you've gone after what you truly desire and want, versus I'm going to get to retirement age and go, fuck, I wish I would have gone for it. Well, too late now. So I said, but you've got to be okay with going, if you don't go for it, getting to 70, 80, looking back and going, I really should have gone for it, but I didn't, you know. Or if you go, nah, I'm not up for the journey, I'm not up for it, and what it could potentially take me to get there, I go, well, stay in the job. It probably means that's okay. It's getting into business, not for everybody, but
there's a reason why there's business owners and employees, and you know,
correct. Not everyone can.
Most of us have done both, and the only difference is at some point you're willing to take the risk.
Yeah, and the reality is we see it all the time. People, even from a standing start, no experience in an industry. Let's say the fitness industry. That's what we deal with. You go within 12 months. You can go from a standing start and $0, 0 clients, and get evidence that this thing's either working or it's not. You know, for many people, it could be sooner than that, the evidence. But if you go dedicate 12 months to it and then make that decision, like you said, what's my very worst case scenario? Well, I go back to the corrections or whatever, right? So yeah. And it's fascinating that people aren't prepared to take that step and absolutely go for it.
I encourage as many people as I can. Like, I've got members in my gym. I'm like, man, you're a builder, but you're working for someone. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're working for someone, but I've got a whole 400 odd people that you could basically be just renovating houses, putting fences up. I'm like, you've done so much work for people already. Why are you not in business? Oh, not ready. I'm like, you'll never be ready. Like, just go and do it, dude. You know, and, you know, he's in business now, and, you know, he fights out of the gym. And that's one example, but it's like, you won't regret it, was my advice. You can get a job again tomorrow. You won't regret it. Yeah. And, you know, he's already back, and it's like, I don't regret it. Like, I wish I'd done it sooner.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'll give him a shout out because it's a funny story. So, it's Base Trade Services. I'm not an owner, and I'm not a shareholder. Okay? So, while we were joking about it, we were actually talking about a job that he was doing as a sole trader. And I had a chat to him about tax. I said, man, you keep earning that money at the end of the year, you're going to lose half of it in tax and blah, blah, blah. You need to go to an accountant. And he goes, I need a new accountant. Send him to my accountant. I said, when you go see him and you tell him exactly what you just told me, I'm pretty sure he'll set a company up and he'll reduce your tax rate to 25 cents on the dollar.
No, he was just a sole trader.
Yeah, well, he was working for someone and then he was just doing some sole trader stuff on the side. And I was like, that all comes to one. And then when it comes to one, you're paying tax on the entire amount. So I was like, you're in the 48 cents to the dollar tax bracket or whatever the hell it is.
Ouch.
So I'm like, man, you need to set yourself up better. Oh, I don't really know how to. Okay, go to my accountant. This is what he'll probably do. Goes to my accountant, comes back. Oh, he's going to set a company up. I was like, I told you you'd do that. And then I was like, base construction. So I made a bit of a joke about it. And we just laughed it off. And then he went and seen him to set it up properly. And he come back, he goes, I called it Base Trade Services. I was like, you fucking asshole. And then now there's Base Trade Services business cards on my front counter. So I've had a dozen people go, oh, I didn't know you had a trade services company. I go, I don't have a trade services company. But anyway, so that's it is a funny story, and we joke about it all the time, but I wish him well. And you know, if using the base,
really.
If using the base name helps him get some business out of the gym, then go for it.
Happy days. Well, the base empire's expanded, right? So if we talk about base location number one, great success story, just shy of 400 members, and you own the building, you're the landlord, so it's ticked the box on every level. But you also had an opportunity somewhere in 2022, right, to open the second one. Yeah,
so actually what happened was I was in America with Aaron, my business partner, good friend, and he wanted a gym, and I was like, yeah, sweet. And he was working at my gym at the time, so I just thought he wanted to go and open his own gym. And then,
funny enough, I actually run into him at the airport when I come back from Brazil. He was picking up his missus. It's hilarious.
He and he was like, oh no, I don't really want to start my own. You've already got a good product. Why don't we just start another one? And so it makes a lot of sense. I've talked to other business owners where, you know, particularly in martial arts, if someone wants their own business, you know, and in business in general, I think if someone that works for you wants their own business in the same industry, why would you not? Why would you not invest in that? You know what I mean? Like, if you've got a proven model and a proven product that's making money, you know, my thought on it, and it probably does come back a little bit to, like, I'm not very selfish with money. Like, money doesn't, you know, control my day in, day out. I don't spend a lot of money. I don't, I actually hate it. I think it causes more fights than anything. My wife loves spending it. So, I feel like I don't really focus a lot on that. My thought on it is, if I can start another business and make 30, 40, 50% out of it, but I can create an income and build wealth for one of my friends, then why would I not do that? Or I could watch him go and struggle and then be like, oh, now you're a competitor, I'm not giving you shit. It's like, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I could just help my friends have what I have. And I'd much rather that than the other option. So, yeah, he just suggested it. And then a month after we got home, I rang him and said, I got a building. And he was like, well, that was fast. I said, brother, you gave me a business idea. I was like, I move fast. And so we found a building, didn't really come off. But that's what got the wheels in motion mid-year. And then by the time we'd gotten to October, we found a place which wasn't very big. I think the occupancy rate at North Lakes at the time was something like 97% or something. So
yeah, not much available stock.
The options were scarce in terms of like what you were going to get. But we had to get what would get our business off the ground. So we got a 217 square meter retail space. It was in next to like Crocs Play Center and Delta Gymnastics and lots of foot traffic, particularly kids. And so, we got that, and there's a little bit of construction work. I did a lot of work at the start, the construction stuff, knocking stuff down and whatnot. And again, we have a good network, so we have a builder in the gym, electricians and all that sort of stuff. So I got the builder in the gym, the electrician in the gym, they're brothers, and basically said, guys, I need this done in 4 weeks. Like I know you guys are busy, weekends, whatever. I got to pay you. You're looking after me, you're not looking after me, whatever. I need my business done and launched before Christmas. I got November to get it done, and there wasn't a lot to do because everyone knows a martial arts gym is just mats on the wall and mats on the floor. But we needed lights. There was no lights in the building. We knocked half the bathrooms down because whatever was in there before had like 6 showers and 6 toilets or something. So we ended up with 2 showers, 2 toilets and an office. And then we built like a subfloor to put stock up there. And then there was just hanging TVs and stuff. So yeah, and we got a scissor lift out, and I did that stuff, because I'm pretty good at operating a scissor lift. Calculated risk, obviously, because there's actually a video of me. I didn't hit what was hanging off the roof, but whoever was in behind me did. So yeah, it was a bit of fun. We fitted it all out in 28 days, and then while I was at collecting my second Train HQ award for Entrepreneur of the Year, 2 of 3, I was down there, and remember I was bloody answering phone calls. Yeah. And so we were opening on a Saturday, was our launch day. And it was the Thursday, Friday for the awards. Yeah. And I was down there trying to communicate back and forth. What I was probably doing is, you guys were doing all the 1 hour seminars or whatever in it. I was probably on my phone like this. You know what I mean? I'm like, yep. You got any stats? Oh, my computer. Okay, yep. And it was back and forth. And really what it was is I'm really OCD when it comes to, cleanliness. A gym, I would argue that there's not a gym as clean as mine in the country. But cleanliness, and then just the little details, like the reason why my gym is white and grey is because it looks cleaner, right? Like the reason why like a mat being 45 mils out is not good enough is because it's not perfect. So like I'm relying on other people to meet my standards. Even though I've got a business partner, part of me is it's not a control thing, but it's like it has to be perfect. Oh, why can't it be a little bit out? Because it just can't. You know what I mean? Like, just do it perfect. Do it right. You know what I mean? Like,
do it right. Yeah.
Oh, but no one will even notice it. Yeah, but I noticed it. Like, I know it's there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if I walk through and there's a mark on the wall and I'm like, oh, I won't paint over that because the paint has already been here. For the next 2 years, I've got to worry about that fucking mark on the wall. Now, that might not be everyone else, but that's me, and that's why my business is what it is, because I am...
It's a standard. It's a standard.
Yeah,
it's a system.
I joke about it all the time. I say to my guys, why is there 2 focus mitts hanging on the wall the other way up? Who did that? You know what I mean? Like, I got 30.
And they do it just to fuck with you, don't they?
They do.
I would.
There's one
for
person
sure.
that does it. Everyone will go, it was him. And I'm like, yeah, I know it's him. But, like, it'll be like 7 o'clock at night. I'm about to lock up. I'm like, fuck, those 2 tire pads are the wrong way up. And then I can't leave them.
Yeah.
You know, some people just leave them. You know, they probably got them on the floor.
Yeah.
Mine are hung out, like, literally 25 meters. Every pad, every hook is spread out to the millimeter apart. Every pad is hung a certain way. Like, it's just how it is.
Yeah.
And it's a joke.
He's like
in
that
the
with
gym.
food. He can't leave anything on a plate.
Nah,
Like-
you
Or
don't.
someone else's
You
plate.
gotta lick it off, right? But no, it's you know, it's always a joke in the gym. Who put those pads up there?
Yeah.
Can you go change them so I can go to sleep tonight?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, that's the joke in the gym, and everyone laughs about it and whatever. But that's just how I am. It's how
You
I
wake
am
up
when I
in
do everything.
like
So,
sweats, having a nightmare. Like the pads.
oh,
Oh, it's just a dream.
I just don't go to sleep if I'm worried about stuff. So
Well, the first time I come there, I remember you showed me around. I was in awe, and you're 100% correct. This gym's beautiful, right? It's gorgeous in terms of its layout, fit out, all the rest of it. We're walking up the stairs, and you go, see that fucking tile there?
yeah,
Fucking
Fucking
and I
drives me
go, I
crazy.
hadn't seen it until you showed me, but
yeah. But that's
you weren't happy about one tile. It was in the wrong spot, or
it's the little things, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's the difference in life, and that's the difference in business. And,
yeah,
you know, anyone can build a gym. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not anyone can build a perfect gym. So,
yeah,
and anyway, so North Lakes, I'm spending the last 2 days away while everyone's getting my gym ready. You know, and I'm like, have you guys got this? You got that? You know, there's a barbecue tomorrow. This is how we're going to run it. And I'm trying to organise how this open day is going to look.
get a
with,
run, yeah,
You know, 60 or 70 bookings to sign people up. Anyway, it ran well. I've got a great business partner. Again, he's, you know, I think I did a talk at one of the end of year things
you
where
did.
I said, the Cardinal Centre business is employing your friends. Or I employ my friends and went into business with one, and I've never looked back. It's been one of the best things I've ever done. And with that being said, we've had our moments. You know what I mean? I've had employees ask me for more money and all sorts of stuff, and my employees are my friends, and I always go like, I'm already looking after you. Like, you know, it makes you a bit uncomfortable the first time, but we've navigated our way through it with the simple things of, like, you know, communication. Like, hey, it's business. You know what I mean? We'll have lunch tomorrow and talk about it as friends, but it's just business. Just make a decision. You know, so we've done that, and we've gone through things, and we've come out the other side, and I'm better for it.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
And we say it all the time. You can have you have a business relationship, you have a personal relationship, and you got that ability to have a boundary between the two, and to go, right now, what we're speaking about is purely business, and then tomorrow we'll be speaking personal. You know, so
Yeah, and you know, it's uncomfortable initially, like the first year in business together, when you got to have the shitty conversations of like, why isn't the floor vacuumed, or, you know, Aaron jokes about it all the time. They like to have dogs at the gym. It fucking drives me crazy. I think it's the most disgusting thing in my life, right? It absolutely drives me mental. So, in my first ever gym, a lady came in on a Saturday, and I'd been training with you guys,
Yeah.
and I went back to the gym, and I was like, where the fuck did this dog hair come from? And it was like my whole 120 square meters of gym space with black tiles, which weren't tiles, they're like black rollout mats, had white hair everywhere. Not in one spot, my whole gym.
Yeah, that would do my head in.
My question is not how did it get there? It was why the fuck is it left there?
Yeah.
Who brings a dog into a gym and doesn't clean up after it? Anyway, so I've got like a no dogs in my gym policy. But there's a couple of people up there that their dog sits next to the mat. It doesn't go on the mat or whatever, but it sits next to the mat. But then I walk up, there's like hair everywhere. So now when I drop in, Aaron will joke and go, oh, bro, I've already cleaned up the dog hair. You know what I mean? Like, so, but initially it's those conversations where you got to be like, I don't like this. Well, I do. You know, and you got to navigate your way through the business side of being friends. But, you know, we do a great job, and you know, I think we have a strong relationship that, you know, we're understanding, and we can put our shit aside and be balanced. But yeah, North Lakes opened up on the Saturday, signed 53 members that day, had to pay nothing till January, so we had free rent in December. So anyone we signed up was a bonus, And then when we came back from Christmas, we had about 75 members or something
wow.
that all just kicked off with their first payment when our rent did, and it worked out really well. And we had a successful launch, and we're 2 years in on December 3rd from opening. And we just moved into a new building, which is in the same complex, but we went from 217 to 300 square meters. And we had a little tiny gym space there. Similar mat space, but a better layout, so it's more usable. And we're at 300 members.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
Great. In 2 years.
Yeah.
Just over. Yeah, fantastic.
So
Such a great result. So 2 gyms pumping. Meanwhile, you ran a few fight events too, haven't you?
yeah, so we've got our 10th show coming up in
10th
March.
already?
Yep. We've run 1 in Townsville and 8 in Brisbane. We've got 4 booked in for this year. So we're going back to Townsville May 24. And then we got March 14, July 5th, and November 22nd in Brisbane.
What do you do at Townsville? Because you don't ship the cage. You
I ship the cage up there.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, it's about $4,000. Like, it's expensive, but it costs like $4,000, including GST, pretty much.
Venue and all that up there.
We went to the entertainment centre last time. I did lose some money up there in Townsville, but it was a good experience. You know, I look at running fight shows a lot like any other business. So I don't run my fight shows and collect all the cash and stuff like that. I'm just all on the books.
Yeah.
All my ticket sales are done through a website. Everything's done legit. Run it like a business. And that way it can be sold one day, you know what I mean, if it needed to be. But I probably wouldn't. But it's it's run like a business to keep it so I can keep track of everything and keep it above board.
Well,
and so when we went to Townsville, even though we lost money, we had it wasn't a lot, but it was enough for us to go, okay, we can wear that because we've just come to a new area. You know, we've dived into a new market.
Yeah.
And was it worth it? Yeah, 100% it was worth it. I flew up there on Wednesday this week. We're not going back to the same venue. We got a different one. So we went to the entertainment centre. It holds 4,000. So the way that they cost that to rent it and stuff is based on you filling it, essentially.
Yeah, right.
So they don't really go, oh, well, if you're only using a quarter of it, you know, the costs are going to be way less. And
you're still using it.
yeah, so, and it's a bit of a shell. Like, the entertainment centre was weird up there, and I've never seen it really before, but they don't even have a truss on the roof for lights. You know what I mean? Like, you've actually got to get the truss hung. You know, they don't have speakers.
So it's just
You got to
literally
get
a
the
shell.
speakers installed.
Yeah, wow.
Like, they don't get the TVs. It's literally a shell
space.
of a building, and it's like, here's the seats, here's the floor, which is concrete, and go. And
It would have been a cheap fit out for them.
yeah, well, and they got a cost for everything, you know, staff cost, and you have to use ticket tech. So then you've got ticket tech costs, and then you have ticket tech ushers, and then you got box office ushers, and like people behind the box office, and their security costs in Brisbane are like $55 an hour, but it's $85 up there. Like, there's a lot of extra cost involved in going up there, but we found a new venue, and it's half the price and holds half the amount.
But the Eaton Hill, that's perfect.
Yeah, we won't leave from there. You know, the Eaton
That's
Hill
a great
Hotel
venue.
have been good to us. I fought there in 2013 and thought it was weird that no one went back. I do understand why they don't go back now. It's very difficult to make money out of the Eaton Hill Hotel because the way they have their functions area set up is so they make money.
Right.
You know, so when you go there, if you're not like a 10,000 person concert,
Yep.
like the idea is they got to make
Still
a minimum
Panther.
amount of money. You know what I mean? So like that's the way it's sort of set up. So you make less money going there. I could go to the South Pine Sports Complex, run it in the stadium, and make a ton of money. Probably.
Yeah, right.
But do you get the same product? You know what I mean? Do the people that attend get the same night out?
Yeah.
No, not really. You just go into a stadium. So, you know, part of it is the experience for us. And so I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of the profit for long-term growth.
Now, did you? Where's that at? Because I mean, I've been to 2 of them, but the production that I'd seen, because you've been broadcasting on YouTube, you had some connection with a bigger organisation, UFC. Where's it at?
Look, we talked. Look, at the end of the day, we're only 9 shows completed, 10 shows in with the March one. You know, we're a baby in terms of business, and I think anyone in the game would talk to broadcasting platforms. Like, you know, you can talk to everyone These days, if you get a contact, you got like 7, Fox, all the streaming platforms, you know, CSN in New Zealand, DAZN, UFC Fight Pass, and I have a background with UFC.
Yeah.
So, you know, there was desire to be on the UFC Fight Pass. That in itself was a lesson in business, but I'll keep that one for off camera.
The production though, when I watched the last, because I couldn't get the last.
We started with
amazing
intent
on YouTube
on meeting the
streaming
standards of a broadcasting platform.
Yeah,
so
it was awesome.
we didn't just want to have one camera angle and no commentators and just put a video out there. We wanted to start with, like, if let's say Channel 7 or something, BN or something like that came to us and said, we want you on our platform, but these are the standards, we're already there.
Yeah,
So
awesome.
what I can do is I can go to someone and be like, these are our analytics, these are our numbers, this is our viewership, and this is how we broadcast.
Yep.
Here's all our details, how many cameras we got, the quality, the speed, you know, everything. We can take to them, the lights, you know. We've got these cameras, this type of camera, and they'll go, okay, cool. You guys are already good. Because the last thing you want to do is run a show. Let's say you pay $5,000 to have one video camera there, right? Then they go, well, to meet our standards, it's going to be $35,000.
Yeah.
And you're like, how am I going to do that? You know what I mean? Like, so we just set out to have a product at a quality that we needed long term. But it's free on YouTube because it reaches more eyes, which is another whole thing with sponsors is like they want more eyes on their product, but they want you on a broadcasting channel. So they'd rather you be on Channel 7. But the analytics from that, you might get 3,000 people watch you on 7 Plus, but on YouTube you get 17,000.
Yeah.
But they're like, oh yeah, but you're just on YouTube. I'm like,
Yeah.
like, what are you after? You're after eyes on your product, right? So like eyes on your product is 17,000 people, but it's such a funny thing to try to explain.
This is no one knows about it on Channel 7.
Nah.
Yeah, everything I'm hearing, D Brown, too, you unpacking that is really comes back to your ethos, you know. So I'm looking at the gyms, looking at the level, the standard.
You're doing to do it.
Yep, and you're going, if we're going to make this, we're going to do it right, and we're going to have it at that level of standard. And the other part, and this is the business lesson for a lot of people, is you're prepared to go without a portion of the profits in the short term, and specifically talking about the fight shows. You're prepared to go without to potentially have it all in the long term and to turn it into something more than it is, which is, again, it's a lesson for many people to take on board, to go, yeah, there'll be times in your business life where you got to go, I've got to put cash flow in, I've got to make this a success. But there's also times when you go, okay, I've got to build this thing for the long term.
Look at the UFC. Well, they made no money, for the first 10 years or whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think people look, I think it helps. Again, I come back to it a lot, but I think it helps. Like, money doesn't make or break me, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, we all need it. You know, we want to buy a house, we want to pay our house off. Like, we need money.
Yep.
Right? It's a vehicle. It's a vehicle to happiness. It's not happiness. Like, you can have $10,000, you don't pick it up and go, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, whatever you buy with it, that's going to make you happy. You know what I mean? So, you go and buy yourself a nice house with $1 million. You go home at night, you're happy. It's not the money that made you happy. You know what I mean? But it's a path. And I just think there's a ceiling on that. Like, I don't know how much money, like, you hear people talk about it all the time. You got $20 million, but you never see someone with that much money happy. They just work, and they don't like their life. So I feel like it helps, just that mentality for me, to be able to do things right and not worry about, like, I could, like I said, I could put it in a sports stadium. It won't look as good. You'll have to drive to it, you know what I mean? And there's nowhere to go for an after party afterwards and get on the beers. And so you miss half the experience for, 5% more? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that that's worth it, because there's other ways to make money besides ticket sales. And that's the long-term plan. So, yeah, that is...
If you were doing it purely for the money, you'd be going, no. Or if
you're doing it for the money, you'd run an amateur show in a basketball stadium. Is what you do.
To make
and
as
you
much
wouldn't even
profit
film
as you
it.
can.
You wouldn't even film it. You just go, yeah, guys, ticket sales, amateur show. You don't have to pay amateurs. We put 20 amateur fights on because that's 40 people selling tickets, guaranteed to sell like 2,000 people over the whole night.
Yeah.
They come, they go, whatever, and then you just make money. And it's like set a cage up, pack it up, go. And that's how you make money. You know what I mean? But that doesn't interest me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to run a show like that. I don't want to match 40 amateur fighters against each other and run a show based on how much cash I can pull out of it, and look back on the fights and be like, it looks shit.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to build a gym and put jigsaw mats in it. Now, I'm not knocking anyone that puts jigsaw mats in their gym, but they don't look good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My mats look good. You know, like...
Well, we talk about it. It's like, where do you want to be the David Jones or do you want to be the Kmart?
Yeah.
Neither wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with either of them.
They both make money.
But
They
don't
probably
promote
just...
yourself as David Jones if you're going to be a Kmart product.
Yeah, correct. And, you know, at the end of the day, they both make money. One might have taken a little bit longer to make it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so anyway, it's just, that's just how I do things. And I don't ever want to reflect and be like, I could have done it better.
Yeah.
I want to do it better now.
Let's flip now back. I'm going to go a little back bit historically now, because you've been a great long-term client of Trainer HQ's in the business coaching program, coached by the big fella over here, 2-time winner of the Entrepreneur of the Year. But I want to hear about how you two first met, you and Big Jace, because you tried to sell him a $10 book, didn't you?
I think it was...
How did that part play out?
I think it was both of you.
It was about 10 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, so, it was 2011.
2011, wow.
2011 we first met at the Fitness Expo.
Sydney.
In Sydney. I think you were down there as well.
I was there.
That's where we were teamed up with... what was the magazine again? I've just gone...
Ultra Fit Mag.
Ultra Fit. We were at their stand. We were working in with them.
Yeah, there you go.
So it's kind of like anyone, right? You don't go to the Fitness Expo to buy fitness gear. You go there to get sample supplements and advice and look at shit.
You were in the Army still then, right?
Yeah, so I was a PT instructor in the Army, and they send, 1 or 2 from each base per year, and they'll alternate it. You probably go once, maybe 2 or 3 times.
You were doing the convention, right? You were doing the Filex.
I was doing the Filex convention, so part of it was we had to go down there and we had to do 2 seminars a day.
So that was the agreement.
I did like the TRX seminar, and then you go do the deadlift one where you watch and focus on the mechanics, and then you had to write a report and send it back. But basically it was a piss trip.
Yeah.
We basically went down, we got accommodation at the Novotel, Darling Harbour, and we just got wasted.
Yeah. We definitely like that part of it.
Yeah. And that was the Army side of us, and we're PT instructors, but we all love a good party. So anyway, so that's what I was down there for, and I ran into you, and you were trying to sell me something, a book.
Would have been the book.
The book. Create PT Wealth.
That was back, before we rebranded.
It might be a bit out of date, but there's some good shit in there. I still haven't read it, but it's no doubt these guys are still sitting here rebranded because it was good. So anyway, you try to sign me up. I don't think you just sold me the book. You're trying to sign me up to a program.
I don't remember. We would have had a workshop on. It would have been maybe potentially one of our workshops.
Trying to sign me up to something, and
you went over
I wasn't ready for it. Yeah, well, mainly because I was already getting paid $65,000 a year, and I didn't need a client.
Yeah,
but it was, that was classic me. I wasn't ready for it, and if I'm not, I won't do it.
Yeah,
and if I am, I'll just source it and get it done. So
I picked up on that pretty quick. I go, this is not going anywhere.
Yeah, So played the game a little bit. It's fun.
And that was in the pre-UFC era, right?
Yeah.
I was already fighting.
Yeah.
But I hadn't been in the UFC.
Did you know D Brown was a fighter then when you met him, or
I think that was, I was unaware at that stage, because that was really the first time that we'd crossed paths.
Is the camera still going? Oh, we're back.
Hello.
Hey, I'm onto this details thing.
I like it.
So it's
it was the first time we met. So we were unaware of each other at that stage.
Yeah, we'd never met before. We met at Filex at your stand. You tried to sell me a program. I wasn't ready for it. And then that was that. And then we just ran into each other in the gym. So I came to Brisbane, started training integrated, which was recommended by my coach in Townsville at the time. And Jason obviously trains under Dan Higgins. So that's where we sort of met. We started training together.
And I think you brought it up. You go,
even then,
I think you told me, I met you at the expo, and you tried to sell me the book, and I went, fuck, that's right.
Yeah, it was a bit like we didn't train together a lot, but that's where we sort of connected again, and then we probably trained together more when Dan went to his house, and we started training together every day.
I think at that stage when you come integrated, I'd started just doing privates with Dan at the time, so I was maybe sporadically popped it into
It was probably
integrated.
one of those ones where he says, "Oh, you can come to a day session if you want." And he used to use his fighters to train with his clients.
Yeah.
It's probably one of them ones. And so I pop in for a training session during the day, and we sort of re-met again and revisited the sales pitch that didn't work. Anyway, fast forward, I got out of the army and I didn't stay in the fitness industry. I pursued a career in the UFC and worked in the jail, and we were training together at Dan's house, and that's where we started training together more 2-3 times a week, more consistently. Build on the relationship, and then when I decided to go into business, I was like, hey, I think I need a business coach because, I delegate responsibility or I outsource to the stuff I'm not good at. So that's where we.
It's an amazing story again when you unpack it right. You go back in 2011, didn't know each other. You were in Townsville then. I was in Brizzy, and through a common interest of, I guess, martial arts and MMA. I mean, First Fitness got you down there, and we happen to be there. And we talk about often the amount of people that we've met at those expos, at being at those events, which a lot of people weren't prepared to do. We were prepared to get there. The relationships we've met, and connections later on. And you go all those years later, like, who would have thought that, then eventually you'd open up your own business and we'd be working together.
Yep.
It's kind of crazy. Yeah. I feel like, I was down there just to get on the beers and do the minimum that I had to do for my boss for a free trip to Sydney.
Yeah.
And so when you get that, like, I didn't walk away with, like, create PT whilst details. I'm sure he gave them to me. But
I'm sure.
And we would have definitely had yours, that's for sure.
Still, well,
I don't think I even got his. No. To be honest. There was nothing happened there. I knew pretty quickly.
It was like trying to get moisture out of a dry prune.
Yeah.
I was
I go, this guy's happy in the army. He's not.
Yeah. So like, happening. I wasn't down there for that. But let's say I went down there as a business person that was already in the fitness industry. I own my own gym. I probably would have taken the information back and then reached out when I needed it. You know what I mean? Whereas in our case, it's just how the world wanted us to catch up again. I didn't take any information. He probably didn't take any information. And then just a few years later, we're training together, and when I needed it, that's what brought us back together. Whereas I feel like a business owner or in the fitness industry already would have taken the information, probably kept it for like a rainy day, and then reached out. Yeah. But yeah, it's just a good story.
The key part was when it was time for you to launch the business. That's when you guys had the conversation. Yeah. You guys started working together from day one. It's not like, hey, go out there, try it myself, fumble, all that sort of stuff. Actually, like you said,
I think I went to you about 4 weeks before my opening day. Yeah. I was like, okay, I found a shed.
Yeah.
Now I'll pull the trigger, because again, it comes back to that risk thing, right? I didn't want to invest money into something that wasn't going to happen. So I spent 6 months trying to find a building in Brendale. I don't want to spend 6 months paying someone, 5, 6, 10, 20 grand anywhere to spend money on something that I don't know if I'm even going to find a building. Yeah. So when I signed the lease, it was like I scrambled to do everything I'd already planned. So I was like, I'm opening in 4 weeks. Can you help me with my opening? And then everything was a bit rushed, but we got it done, and we had a good, successful launch, and everything was good.
It's the thing I always credit to you, and I always talk about going from the get-go, like you were alluding to then, getting the right people in place where, unfortunately we just see so many people, I'll just have a go on my own. I go, what are you going to have a go on your own? I mean, it's not the real reason, right? There's a lack of, confidence and better do it. Am I going to follow through on this? I don't want more evidence that I'm not good enough. So, because we're not, like I was literally speaking to a 21-year-old the other day, I think I'll just have a crack on my own and unpacking it. And that wasn't the truth, but, the reality is I'm going, well, you've got no sales experience, you've got no business experience, you've got no, like, why would you let that to risk? You just went and spent $6,000 on a course to get qualified, and you were doing that because you didn't know how to train somebody effectively. So what, you're going to spend that risk potentially not being in the industry in 6 months? It's crazy, which is why I credit anyone with that mindset of going, I want this to be successful. I want to get around a proven system and method experience. I don't want to.
I think a lot of people struggle with the self-belief that when you pay for something and you execute it, it will happen. Like they're like, it's very difficult. Let's just say a round figure. Let's say I'm going to open a business. It's going to cost me 10 grand for business coaching, but I'm opening a business anyway, so it'll be good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What's that 10 grand? How's that going to come back? You know, how am I going to get, what's it even going to do? Is he going to tell me to do a few things and I'm going to do them?
That's the
I was going to
issue.
do that anyway. You know what I mean? Like, so people really struggle, which is obviously what you guys are good at is selling the product and, you know, the end goal. But it's the same as selling a membership, right? You know, you try to sell a membership, you're like, oh, fuck, that's pretty expensive. Like, I can learn martial arts in my mate's garage. Well, off you go.
Well, when people say to me, oh, I'm not sold on this business coaching, or I don't think I need it, I go, no, you don't need business coaching. And it throws them, and I go, you know, that's just the vehicle. You don't need business coaching. What you need is, you need the right systems, the right procedures. You need to know how to sell your product, you know, have your offerings. That's what you actually need.
For me, what I needed support, right? So at the start, it was
the big one, yeah.
At the start, I believed that I had like the product, the thought, the process. I believed that I knew what I wanted. I knew what I wanted my gym to look like. I had a lot that I knew. And so for me, getting a business coach wasn't so much about like having someone do everything for me or give me all the tools. And I think you would agree. For me, most of it was to send a message and say, "Hey, man, I'm thinking about this," and you're like, "Fuck, don't do it," or "Do it," or "Well, I think it's a good idea, but this is how you would implement it." So for me, it wasn't necessarily about not having any idea about how to grow a business. I felt like I knew that. I felt like I was pretty good. In terms of that sort of stuff. It was more, you know, like the accountant, the broker, the lawyer thing was a business coach, you know.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah, that's what I was
like,
saying.
I think long term in life you need to have those three things, but I feel like there's some things you need from a support point of view. And again, there's some people that are just like, I'm going to do a Cert 3 and 4 in fitness and I'm going to get some clients. And they don't have any idea what they're doing. They just think it's good to go in the fitness industry. They need business coaching. They need coaching. They need you guys give them everything so they can come out the other side with a proper operating business. I felt like I was kind of like there, but I just needed someone to hold my fucking hand pretty much.
Yeah, and you don't want it to take years, right? So the other part, most people who get attracted to us are intrinsically driven, intrinsically motivated. They're go-getters.
Can't teach that part.
And the other part is that, but it could take them 3-5 years to figure this stuff out. We'll go, well, let's just show you the fast track. Let's figure this out in 12 months, right?
Yeah.
So then you got the foundations right. Then you can start to build on that, and that's where the power is.
Yeah.
You relate it to the fitness industry, right? If you're a trainer, and you want to have clients, like when I speak, what's your ideal client? They go, someone who's already driven, they want this, they don't know, come on, mate, time to get out of bed, let's go. That's not the type of client you want. You want somebody who's already got that, but they go, I just don't know the most effective and efficient way to train.
Yep.
I don't have that experience. How do I recover? What do I eat before I train to get the most out of it? How do I train so I don't get injured? That's really the purpose of a coach, right? It's not to go, come on, Brad, mate, come on, it's 6 o'clock. Are you out of bed yet, mate? Brush your teeth, get your clothes on. Oh, okay.
You get married. That'll happen.
It's similar to business coaching, right? Yeah.
Get out of bed.
Come on, mate,
Your
get out of
alarm's
bed.
already gone off.
Fucking, don't you sit down.
Yeah.
Until you mow that lawn.
I know that alarm woke you up. You're just laying there wiggling. Get out of bed.
So yeah, it's cool.
Love it. All right, well, we're starting to wrap up. We're coming to the end. Curious to know, what does the future hold, brother?
So, you know, one of the things, without stepping on anyone's toes, so I'll be very brief in it, is, you know, we also launched a fourth business 6 months ago, and I know you guys offer some of these products, so I won't give it too much of a shout out. But Base Creative.
We'll delete this part of the podcast anyway. So.
And that's a wrap.
Base Creative and Design. You know, I won't talk about the websites we build, but we do graphic design.
Well, we don't do websites and all that stuff.
We do graphic design and live production, like content, videography content,
awesome.
photography. Yeah. But we do live production of events as well. And so we just launched like basically a creative agency. So that's going pretty good for now. You know, I'd like to open another gym and, I have a few locations. I'd really like to have a CBD location. That would be pretty cool. What interests me about that? I don't think you'd have a CBD location with the same community vibe as all the other gyms that I have. I think a CBD location is very transactional based
Pop in
gym.
at lunchtime and
It's like you start a gym, you can put some coaches on. I'd like to employ more of my brown belts and stuff to teach jiu-jitsu, and you could put some pad work classes on. No one in the CBD, like white collar kind of, guys and girls really want to they don't really want to be sparring at lunch and stuff like that. So like just some
they just want
fitness.
to imagine they're beating the shit out of their boss.
Yeah, they want to hit pads and feel good about themselves, like they can fight. So it's it was a little bit more different. I put a lot of thought into it. It's a little bit more of an expensive sort of option as well, but that's something that's definitely on the table.
Love it.
We've obviously got our next fight show coming up, and we're looking for some big announcements there soon. But I can't release too much because it's still being negotiated.
When's your next fight show?
March 14. And then we're heading back to Townsville May 24, and we've got a couple more in Brisbane. So yeah, we got Beatdown coming up this year. We got Base Brendale, Base Northlakes are still pumping. Base Creative and Design, creative agency, which I have a business partner in, and he's the creative one, and I'm the business one. So there's nothing creative about me as far as artwork goes, but can build a gym. And then hopefully, I've got a couple of locations sort of set out, but I tend to take my time with things, and I even did that with Brendale when my ads used to do too well. I'd turn them off, and the marketing guy used to think I was crazy. He'd be like, "What do you mean they're doing too well? You've got too many ads. They've got too many leads. There's too many sign-ups." I'm like, man, I got to build a gym that has a high retention rate. That's my goal. My goal is not to build the biggest gym with the biggest member base. It's to have the biggest retention rate.
Yeah, I like that.
And so that's what I'm all about. And I do the same with businesses. Could I open 5 or 6 gyms this year? Of course I can. I can afford to open 6 gyms this year. You know what I mean? I can put 6 head coaches in them this year, but 3 of them will probably fall over next year. Do you know what I mean? That's not the goal. Yeah. We've seen that in martial arts. There is a business, fuck it, I'll say it. It's like Infinity Martial Arts. It had like 11 or 13 gyms in Southeast Queensland at one stage, and now they're all folding. Mm-hmm. They had a big 5 or 6 years of growth, and then everyone jumped on board and bought their $200,000 franchise or whatever it was, and got their black belt in 6 years and all that sort of stuff. And again,
I should have gone there.
Some of those guys are good, but
forever.
It was a business model, and it was about money, and people worked it out eventually. And yes, it was good for kids to learn jiu-jitsu. Yes, it had benefits, positives, and whatnot. So I would never knock all that sort of stuff. But from a business point of view, it was obvious what was going on, and eventually most of the business owners are still in business. The one in Caboolture, the one in Springfield Lakes, like they're all rebranding to independent gyms. Yeah. Cassidy Combat Club in Caboolture now. You've got Tahua Martial Arts in Springfield Lakes now. Instead of having Infinity gyms, they're all just rebranding. People want out. ACO Martial Arts used to be Infinity. So everyone's getting out of that model because they realise that it's not, it's not what they want. And so Infinity's kind of like just crashing. Because they went too big too quick. There's no retention there. There needs to be retention of your members, and there needs to be retention of like business. Like you don't want to open up and shut it up.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's got a little sidetrack there. But yeah, 2025 is hopefully another gym and some more staff and giving some more fighters and competitors jobs, and
Awesome.
Focus on the gyms that I got.
Love it, D Brown, mate. So many insights, so many words of wisdom, and just so great. It's great to have you back on 2.0 of the podcast. What we'll do is in the show links today, we actually put in your previous podcast, which was 3 years ago, because we talk more about your background in the military, the UFC career back then, and so forth. But now it's just great to see where this juggernaut has gone and where it's heading. And we just really appreciate you coming along and investing the time to give back to the community.
Yeah, and you see all the opportunities. This is the thing when you're an entrepreneur and you go out there and make it happen, like all the opportunities, jobs, you know, from the fight shows to the gyms, you know, to your members, you know, it's when you unpack it, there's so much more than just, hey, I want to start a, you know, an MMA gym. It's everything else that comes along with it. So, mate, congrats to yourself, and it is inspiring. And for anyone listening to this or watching it go, and you know, these things are achievable when you do the right things and get around the right people.
Yeah, 100%.
I'll wrap it up for you. So I needed a business coach to hold my hand, but I will say that Trainer HQ and the tools that you guys provide, I can see when I looked at everything that I didn't use, that if I was one of those people that needed all of those tools, and I implemented that, you know, the 9, 10, I think you guys are charging 15 now. No, but then you know, whatever you pay for whatever program you're on, you know, the money's worth it, and there's a path to success on the back of the tools that you guys provide. Again, I didn't go into business because I had no idea. I had a very, very definitive idea of what I wanted to do, and I need someone to hold my hand, and I got that. And you know, I think the results showed, but I can definitely see if I used all the tools, you guys have got a real good program, and you know, people would benefit from it. So if there's anyone out there that's really doubting whether spending the money is going to get you an ROI, I can confidently say they'll get their money back if they implement the program.
Appreciate the plug, mate. We
love it, brother.
Yeah, we love it. We love our community.
Won't cut that shit out, will you?
You know it.
And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, comments. It definitely helps the channel. And also, if you're listening to this on Spotify or any other channel, make sure you do the same.
Yeah, yay. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Damien Brown.
Yeah.
Thanks, boys.